Discover your inner goddess and live up to your highest value and most abundant potential. Welcome to Grateful Goddesses, a podcast that empowers you to unleash your inner goddess and take the leap of faith to live your best life. Your guide, Karen Pulver, joins her fellow goddesses in soulful conversations about gratitude, personal growth, authentic living, and a bevy of topics affecting women today. Let's start the show with your host, Karen Pulver.
Welcome everyone to Grateful Goddesses. Whether you are watching the YouTube of this episode, listening to the podcast, or reading the blog, we are so glad and grateful that you're here. So over the past year and a half or so, I've gotten into some really bad eating habits with COVID, especially being stuck inside, watching Netflix series over and over again, having that glass of wine or that martini, having that bag of popcorn that just, you take one handful and before you know it, it's all gone. My husband and I really love dark chocolate, which is a really good snack. However, not when you eat an entire bag of dark chocolate chips along with that martini. That's really yucky and bad. And just like we've learned on Grateful Goddesses about bad energy being stuck in the different dense pockets of the different chakras, and that can cause upset to our mind, body, and spirit. So too, what you fuel your body with. Absolutely. Whatever you put in, it might feel good, like for me, eating those chocolate, and oh, it's so yummy. But then once it's in your body, I don't know, it just can feel kind of crappy. So I really struggled over the past year from this bad eating. Of course, gaining weight is one side effect, but another side effect I had was I broke out quite a bit, not just from wearing the mask, but definitely from eating poorly in the T-zone area. And I had trouble staying asleep. I'd wake up quite frequently with stomach issues. And I also felt extremely sluggish. I do love a good restorative nap. However, I felt like I had to nap, like I couldn't get through the day if I didn't lie down. And I do think that was because of the food I was eating. So our guest today, Melissa Deely, knows a lot about what we put into our body, how we can clear the toxins, and how we can feel really refreshed and energetic about all the things that we eat. Melissa Deely is a holistic health coach and integrative health practitioner. Her company is called Your Guided Health Journey. She helps people deal with common challenges, such as getting to the root cause of your health issues, removing toxicities, boosting deficiencies to help your body come back into balance so that it can heal itself and give you newfound energy and a renewed joy of life. She uses functional medicine labs that get mailed to your home and help you see what is going on inside your body. And then she provides a personal wellness protocol to guide your healing journey. Melissa specializes in gut health, women's hormones, liver detoxes. She's a speaker, connector, podcast host, and guest, and an outdoor enthusiast. Welcome, Melissa, to Grateful Goddesses.
Thank you, Karen. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you for joining us. One of the things that Melissa offers in her coaching business is direct contact with her via texting through the Coach Connect. And I've been doing the detox now. I'm almost through. I have 1 week to go, one of the detoxes that she recommends. And one of the things I've been doing is texting you a lot, especially the other day I said, Melissa, I'm having a hard time with this moment. And I wasn't hungry. I was actually full. But my husband and I were watching a show. He got out the popcorn. He started eating it. I looked over. I'm like, oh, that looks so good. I just want to have a bite. I just want to have a handful. And I messaged you. I'm like, what do I do? And you got back to me right away. And you said, think about what is it that's causing your brain to think this. You're so used to eating this way at night. Go for a walk, have a bath. What is it? And that, you even said drink water, and I went and had water. I had a cup of tea, and I didn't feel the need to have that anymore. So I appreciate that. So tell me about your coaching business and how it is that it was okay, all those many texts that I sent you.
Well, I've named my business very decisively, and it's called Your Guided Health Journey, because when people are trying to regain their health, I'm looking at the whole body. I'm looking at nutrition, exercise, stress, sleep, mindset, belief, and more. And a big piece of that is nutrition. And when we change the way people eat, it's hard and people need more support. And I want people to be successful in their healing journey. And so offering this high level of support is what makes the difference. Because I've seen people, get diagnoses or have lab tests run by doctors and naturopaths and get told, don't eat this and don't eat that. And then you're left to your own devices. And that's when people end up, looking for recipes online or going to Dr. Google, but then they're not quite sure. Like, there's other ingredients in this. Can I have that? Can I not? Is this going to, help me or not? And they don't know. And the problem is when we start to change our habits, our brain starts talking to us because our brain is charged with keeping us safe. And it knows that what you're doing today is safe because you're here and you're alive. And it's not sure where you're going when you start to change habits. And so it starts chirping at you to bring you back into that comfort zone with things like, this is hard. These new recipes, you don't know them in your head. They take longer. Maybe you shouldn't do this, or you don't even know if you're doing it right. And when it says that to you and you can't get your questions answered, that's when people fall down. But when you can actually talk back to your brain and go, hey, yeah, I do know I'm doing it right because I just asked the question and I got my answer, you're in a much more empowered place to keep moving forward, knowing that you are supported and you are doing it right and you will get there. And so that's why I love this app and I love offering this high level of support to people because it leads to success.
Yes, and especially in those moments of weakness where, I just wasn't sure and I needed that support. And also when I've been to restaurants and I'm like looking at the menu and I text you and I'm like, I don't know, can I have this? What about this? And, you just get back pretty much within 10 minutes. And I love the support that you give. Thank you so much for that. I'd like to invite our future goddesses on to join in this conversation, and especially talk about our eating habits and how it's affecting us. Hi, girls. So
Hi.
I wondered, have any of you felt the same as me this past year? Have you you're nodding your head. Michelle, would you like to start?
Yeah, so I really relate to what you said, Karen. I need a nap almost every day. And I have to stop what I'm doing, wherever I am, and come home and take a nap. And I know my eating, it's the same. It's not been great. I'm usually a pretty healthy eater. So, Melissa, this is perfect for me. I'd love to talk about sugar too, because that seems to destroy me.
Yes, sugar is another very common problem because it's in everything, unfortunately, right? The food industry is pretty smart. They know how addictive it is to humans. And so if they want to grow their bottom line and their profit, why not add some sugar? And then let's do some salt, just in case you're the salt person, into the food to get us addicted to it. So we buy more and we create more profit for them, right? But in that process, sugar is also a poison. It's toxic to the human body. Yes, the body needs some sugar. Energy comes from glucose, etc., within the body, but the processed sugar at the degree or the amount that we eat today is toxic. I was reading something the other day, and back pre-World War I, in the UK, the average person was having 15 pounds of sugar a year. Now it's 125 pounds. That's insane. And the food industry makes it hard because they've got 50 different names for sugar. So when you're trying to be an educated consumer reading labels, how do you know what all these other things are, right? So it's so hard. But there are ways to lower our sugar intake. And, the detox is one of them. I also have a program, 28 days to kick the sugar habit. And for somebody else that wants more support, we can do that over 90 days. But sugar is causing crashes in energy, because what happens is when we eat something that's high in sugar, and think about just how many people start their day. Start with a cup of coffee because we've woken up a little bit tired and we need that kickstart to our brain. And we might add that with a pastry from the local coffee shop, right? And the body treats coffee quite similarly to sugar. So you've just given your body a double whammy of quick energy that we burn through fast, It creates an insulin spike. And then about an hour and a half later, we're down here crashing, right? So that's when we reach for another cup of coffee or another pastry to get us through until lunchtime. And then lunchtime, we get some real food. Hopefully that gives us a bit of energy until mid-afternoon. And then we might be deciding we need the daily nap, or we reach for a chocolate bar or something else. And we have this ongoing roller coaster ride throughout our day, all day, every day. And by the time we try to go to sleep at night, it's really hard to get to sleep because of the coffee intake, which has an 8-hour half-life. So if you've had it at 8 a.m. in the morning, half of that is still in your body at 4 p.m. and half of that is still in your body at midnight. And that's if you've only had 1 cup. And you've had all of this sugar that's still in your, blood, right? So getting to sleep is hard. Then we toss and turn all night. We wake up, we're tired, and we do it all again. So when I work with people, I help them break the coffee habit and I help them break the sugar habit. And they are amazed at how much new energy they have and how much better they feel as a result.
Well, I have to say, I've been on the detox now, like I said, I'm finishing the second week. And the first week I text you, I said, I'm still tired. I'm still napping. You said, oh, you were a little surprised, but maybe it was harder to detox and get it all out of me. I didn't nap at all this past week. I didn't feel the need. It was like I'd go up to my room and be prepared to take that nap. And I'm like, oh, I don't need it. It was very, very strange. But Tanis, would you like to add to that at all?
I like that Melissa's talking about the psychological effects of it as well, because I think that's definitely a big part. That's something I've struggled with for sure. You eat for other reasons, not just because you're hungry. So I think that's a really good way to come at it with the ongoing support. I was really happy to hear that. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Michelle, were you going to comment some more?
No, that brings me to why is detox so important, and how can it help us with those, cravings and things, or things that aren't good for us?
So detoxing is so important in today's world because we live in a toxic world. It's far more toxic than the human body was ever designed to have to deal with. Since the beginning of time, the human body is very slow to evolve. But since World War II, we've had almost 100,000 man-made chemicals introduced into our world that are getting inside our body through our food, through our airways, through our waterways, etc. Some of them are going in our mouth, and then the liver is charged with detoxing them. And many of them we're putting on our skin. And it takes only 26 seconds to get into our bloodstream when we put it on our skin. And there's no chance for the liver to detox that. And our body is just getting bogged down with these toxins that it doesn't know how to deal with. And our poor liver is, it's charged with keeping our body pure and clean. And it's vital in over 500 chemical functions inside the body. But it's under a double whammy attack right now. And we don't give our liver enough respect, mostly because we just haven't been taught this, right? But the liver is nutrient deplete right now because our soils are nutrient deplete, right? So since the advent of agricultural farming, we've been taking from the land, again, trying to produce more food to feed the planet and make a profit, and not allowing the soil to settle and regenerate the nutrients. So those nutrients aren't in the soil, they don't get into our food. The liver has 2 phases of detoxification. So phase 1 and phase 2. We're getting the nutrients we need for phase 1 of detoxification through our food, but we are not getting the nutrients we need for phase 2 of liver detoxification through our food. And this phase is the phase where the liver actually turns the toxins into a format that can exit the body, right? So we need to be supporting the body more through good supplementation to help with phase 2 of liver detoxification. At the same time, we need to help the liver get these toxins out. And the way we do that is we need to turn off digestion. The body needs to get into a state of autophagy or deep clean. But in the first world where food is so readily available, and especially during COVID when we're all at home and the refrigerator is just there, we're just grazing all day long, right? Every time we put food in our mouth, it turns on digestion. Digestion uses 30% of our energy if it's a healthy digestive system. We eat food for energy, but we have to remember we are using energy to break that food down in order to get the nutrients into our cells to give us energy. When we are digesting, other systems are being shut down. And that would be our deep cleaning system, that system of helping move the toxins through and out of the body. So with a functional medicine liver detox, we actually time our meals, space them out through the day. We put an end to the grazing, and we allow the body to get into a state of autophagy. And when the body is in autophagy, it starts to clean up. It starts to move those toxins out, but also get rid of dead cells and damaged cells. And then when we're in that stage for long enough, we start to have our human growth hormone get produced, which starts to regenerate new cells. And those new cells bring new energy. So that's why we start to have more energy as we get our toxins out. We also start to sleep better because the body detoxifies overnight. And if that process isn't such a struggle on the body, we're not getting woken up through the process. The body can do it, more easily, and we can start to sleep better through that process. So it's the liver detox program I offer is based on science and very programmed as to work in alignment with the body and get the body back to working the way that it should naturally. And what I also find interesting is that if you look at Ayurvedic medicine that goes back 6,000 years, traditional Chinese medicine, Latin American medicine, they all still detox to this day. It's only in the Western world where we've decided that to be healthy and hygienic, we have to have a shower to wash our outer body, but we've completely forgotten about what's going on inside our body. And it's so important to look after what's going on inside our body, because we now know that 90 to 95% of all diseases are triggered by the environment you create inside your body. It's not genetics. Genetics plays a piece, but it's also the environment we create that triggers the cells to turn on the genes that we're predisposed to. But if we create a healthy, clean environment inside our body, those cells, those genes don't have to be turned on. So it's very empowering because we have control and we have the choice to create a body that is inhospitable to disease. And that's what I like to teach people to do.
Alyssa, have you ever done a detox, or what's your relationship to food this past year?
So I feel like in talking to people, I probably had a very typical journey with food. At the beginning of the pandemic, I think we were all kind of nesting and cooking a lot and baking a lot and got to a point where we were all, like, in my house at least, and I had gone from being sort of an empty nester back to a full house when my kids were home. We were like, okay, enough. We are gaining weight. We are eating too much sugar. We are just, we felt like we could, right? We needed to treat ourselves because everything else going on around us and outside wasn't fun. So we were going to feed our souls. And then we just decided enough was enough. So then I stopped the baking, no more banana bread. And I started, just cooking healthier, eating healthier. I did some delivery meals, some, just our kind of our own way. And we do eat pretty healthy around here. Now I'm sort of back to a somewhat of an empty nest. Depends on the day. And we're all just, summer's here. The weather is beautiful. We didn't want to feel like yucky, like we had sort of during the winter, I think. And now we're kind of coming out of our hibernation and starting to eat healthier. So it's been a bit of a journey this past year. I think I'm finally back to kind of where I started from pre-pandemic. It took a while to get there. But I wanted to ask you, Melissa, about sort of this connection between detoxing and people who suffer from a chronic illness, or people like me who have a genetic predisposition, I believe, to sort of brain health issues. And I wanted to get your take on, how detoxing can help that. And obviously so many different diseases out there. People suffer from so many different, but how can detoxing, if you are predisposed to something, maybe sort of ward off diseases like that?
Absolutely. And so detoxing is very powerful in warding off those things. When we detox, we literally are clearing out our pathways through our whole digestive system. And our immune system is 70% of it is housed in the gut, which is all part of our digestive system. So when we clean up and strengthen the health of our whole entire gut, we're also strengthening the health of our immune system. And that can then be helping to ward off chronic illness. And then you mentioned also brain issues or brain fog and all of that. Well, the gut-brain connection is so powerful. And in fact, I used to think that, our brain was in charge. But what I've learned is that for every message from our brain to our gut, there's actually 9 messages from our gut to our brain. So now I think of it as the gut is my command center, and my brain is the operations center that makes it happen. But there's this strong connection through the vagus nerve between the gut and the brain. And when the gut is not happy, the brain is not happy. When the brain is not happy, the gut is not happy. And think about it. If you have a headache, you probably don't really feel like eating. If you have a stomach ache, maybe you have brain fog, or you're just not processing things as well. We also know that 90% of serotonin, one of our feel-good hormones, is made in the gut. Dopamine is also made in the gut. If our gut is out of balance, it's not going to be producing those necessary neurotransmitters to the degree that it should. And then it's much harder for us to be feeling good, feeling happy. And that's when we can end up going to a doctor. They might, prescribe an anti-anxiety or an antidepressant drug, or send you to a psychiatrist for an evaluation. And really what I invite people to do is, let's start by looking at the health of your gut. Because if we can rebalance your gut, then and get your gut naturally making neurotransmitters again, then maybe you don't need those drugs.
And the detox, it's not a diet, but you can lose weight. Can you explain that?
Yeah, and that's actually really quite simple. Several things. First of all, toxins weigh something. So when we get those toxins out, we naturally lose weight. But the other thing too is because we are setting the timing of eating, and you don't, on the fasting days where you have the shake, and the shake has all of the goodness in it that your body needs. It's got all your vitamins and all your micro minerals and minerals, etc. So it's not designed to go hungry, but the reason we're hungry is because we're taking in a lower caloric load than what we're used to. But if we've been grazing all day long, then that caloric load is higher than it needs to be. So this is a reset for the entire body, including the amount that your body needs to eat to function at an optimal level. Because when we overeat, we actually put a lot of stress on our digestive system because it has to break all of this down. And again, remember I said it uses 30% of our energy. Well, if we're constantly using that energy, we are going to feel like we have less energy for other things, less cognitive energy and less energy to get in workouts, et cetera, et cetera. So we lose weight and we gain energy, and it's a win-win.
But who drinks coffee here? Michelle doesn't. Tanis, do you have, what's your coffee regime?
My coffee regime? Yeah, I'm bad in the mornings because I have a little bit of sugar in my coffee too.
Yeah.
So, but I really only have 1 to 2 cups in the morning. I'm not one that drinks it all day or anything.
Do you put cream or milk in it too?
Yes, milk.
Alyssa, you too?
1 cup a day in the morning, kind of need it. It's a habit. It's hard for me to break, and a little bit of almond milk.
I was very surprised when I started this detox, Melissa. It just was 2 days and I was like, oh, I don't feel like a coffee right now. It was very strange, but I'm sure for some people it's very hard.
It is. And for some people, coming off coffee, because it has become such a habit, actually triggers withdrawal headaches, which shows how addictive it can be. We all have different tolerance levels to coffee and even to sugar. Some people can eat sugar and not have that huge energy shift, and other people can't. And it is exactly the same with coffee. And people who know they are sensitive to coffee, they are very aware of it. I have never drunk coffee in my life, but I know I'm sensitive to caffeine. And, not that I drink pop at all, but when I was, younger, even in my teen years, I couldn't have pop after like 2 p.m. and go to sleep. So I just avoid caffeine because I know I'm sensitive to it. But for people that are less sensitive to coffee, they can get into habits of drinking more and more of it. And as I mentioned earlier, it has that 8-hour half-life. So it starts to really negatively impact their sleep. And when we do break that habit, and it can be hard because they will go through withdrawals. So I coach them through coming off it slowly, like reduce your intake over 5 days or even a week before starting the detox, which is why I do calls with people to set them up for success on the detox before they start. So they're fully prepared, because when we plan and we're prepared to do something, we can be so much more successful than if you just decide, I'm going to do this and I'm going to start tomorrow, and I'm not prepared. And now I'm dealing with really painful headaches, and I haven't prepared my meals for the days that I get to start eating again. And now I'm preparing a meal while I'm still fasting. That's just cruel to yourself and your body, right? And so setting people up for success and planning ahead of time is what ultimately leads people to success through the program.
The meal prep was key. I felt that so you can, you have on the detox that Melissa, she suggests, you fast. Well, you don't fast. You have 4 shakes day 1 and day 2 with supplements. And on day 3, you have a shake in the morning, then you can eat lunch, which, let me tell you, that was the best meal ever. That 3rd day, I was mindful eating too, which I don't normally do. I normally eat on the run, and I sat and I made this beautiful soup 3 days before. So I took it out and I was eating it. It was so good, filled with so many nutritional yummies in there. So that was really key. Now, but what about, I'm getting back to coffee, because even though it was easy, I still want to have my cocktails, here and there. So when I do finish this week, you said you're going to talk with me about reintroducing foods. So will I be able to reintroduce coffee?
You can, and it's up to you as to what degree you reintroduce it. Some people are like, I just don't want to reintroduce it because I realized how it was bogging down my energy. Some people, as Alyssa said, it's a habit and they love it. And then I ask, well, do you need the caffeine or can you do a decaf? Right? And so some people choose to reintroduce a decaf, and other people choose to reintroduce coffee, but limit it to that 1 cup a day, because they now know about that 8-hour half-life and how it's affecting their sleep, or was affecting their sleep. And now they're sleeping better and they don't want to go back to the way that it was before. And it's the same with alcohol, right? Alcohol, it does have sugars in it, and it can impact sleep. It can impact the liver, right? And so everything becomes a choice, because you have greater awareness around how to fuel your body well and what you want to put in it at any given time. So again, during COVID, maybe it was really easy to sit down and have a glass of wine or 2 every single night. And coming off the detox, it might be, you know what, I'm just going to do that on Friday and Saturday nights. I believe in the 80-20 rule. We're all human. We're not perfect, and we can't be perfect. And I don't want people getting stuck trying to be perfect. So I never ask anyone to, eat 100% of the time perfectly. I don't want anybody else to, right? But the 80-20 rule is really powerful. If you eat well in a way that serves your body 80% of the time, it's able to cope with the 20% of the time where you choose to eat food that nutritionally may not be as good for you, but there's celebration around it or whatever, and you're just going to enjoy it, and enjoy it mindfully, right? When we eat mindfully, then we know what we're doing. We're making a choice to do that, and we don't go away and beat ourselves up afterwards for having done it, which puts stress on the body and causes the body to hold on to weight. When we do it mindfully and we enjoy it, we can walk away from that feeling light and happy without the stress.
Absolutely.
Sorry. So First of all, I drink green tea, a cup of green tea every day. So I'm curious to know right here, if that's the same as coffee. And, also I'm curious to know, I forgot my question.
Well, I can answer green tea while you think of your question.
See, your brain's a little foggy because you ate something last night that wasn't quite agreeing with you. I'm kidding.
So the caffeine in green tea and the way the body absorbs it is actually different to the way the body absorbs caffeine in coffee. And so the caffeine in green tea, while we don't do that during the detox, it's actually a better option than coffee. So keep enjoying your green tea. I drink green tea every day as well.
Thank you. And so here's my question. Going back to 80-20, do you recommend doing that in a certain way, like having one day, not all day because it's only 20%, but one day where you break it, or you can go through the week and play with that?
You drive through Shake Shack, then you go to Portillo's and get the chocolate cake, and then you top it off with a martini. I've done that.
I wouldn't even do that.
So yes, I do. And ideally the way to do it is to just have your 2 cheat meals a week. So that way you can plan around social events. If you know that you're going out, then that's going to be a cheat meal because, you're less in control, especially if you're eating at someone else's house, etc. So you don't want to have them 2 days in a row either. You need to space them out just to give the body time to process and move all of that through before you hit it again. So 2 cheat meals a week, and the rest of the time, if you're eating, as I said, nutritionally dense meals the rest of the time, your body will be thriving. And generally that 80-20 rule is such a massive shift for people from where they're at now. For some people, they could be the other way around and doing 20% of the time they're eating well, and 80% of the time they're not eating in a way that serves their body. And so every shift towards that 80% of nutritionally complete meals is a shift in the right direction.
Makes sense. Thank you.
I have a question. We know sugar bad, sugar equals poison, but are there any foods any sort of big myths in the food industry, or just from diet people out there that, that we're just not aware of? Things like, I don't know, these are 5 foods you think are healthy, but they're the worst things you can put in your body, or I don't know, just other myths that we're being told or stuff we're being fed by the food industry.
There's actually quite a few. And one thing that I want to say before I start going into the myths is the fact that the weight loss industry is feeding us a lot of myths as well, and confusion. And this is $1 billion industry saying, with magazines at the checkout counter, if I lost 30 pounds in 30 days doing this, and you can too, and and you must do keto. No, you must do paleo. You must do carnivore. What I teach is each of us has to find the right way to eat for our unique body, because our microbiome is unique. It's as unique as our fingerprints, and it goes back 4 generations. And so the way that our microbiome or our gut wants to be fed, and that bacterial and balance or microbial balance in our body is impacted by where we lived and where we came from 4 generations ago. So different ethnic foods, etc., might be healthy for one person and then not for someone else. And there's plenty of healthy foods that some people can't eat. People have food intolerances to apples and pears and nuts that, they're healthy, and yet some people can't do them. And so what's healthy for one isn't necessarily healthy for everyone. And that's something that I actually do for people is I run food sensitivity lab tests so that people can discover what their body doesn't like. And then we remove it while we help the gut heal. And then we can reintroduce, but maybe it's a once a week thing. Maybe it's a once a month thing, depending on the degree of intolerance. Because we want to know this, because every time we eat foods that our body doesn't like, it creates inflammation in the body. And when we get into that state of chronic inflammation, that's when the body can start triggering genes to turn on disease. So back to myths. Yes, there's some that, probably most people know now, but not necessarily everyone. But if you go back to the late 80s, we were all told to eat no fat, low fat, right? Well, that was based on pure logic, and our body isn't that simple. So the idea was, if you don't want to be fat, don't eat fat. However, our body needs fat. Our brain is made up of fat and water. It needs good quality fat. And when the food industry took the fat out of the food, it tasted like cardboard. So nobody wanted to buy it. So what did they add? Sugar. So now all of a sudden we think we're eating healthy because we're choosing no fat, low fat. That's what we've been told. If you don't want to be fat, don't eat it. And now we're eating foods loaded with sugar that leave us hungry 2 hours later, crashing for energy. So we eat more. So we're taking in way more calories in a day. And they started that back then to try and curb the pace at which we were going with heart disease and obesity and type 2 diabetes. And it's completely backfired because we are in a far worse position today. So that's one. Another one, start your day with fruit juices. That's a healthy way to start your day. That's how I was raised. But the reality is when we take the juice out of the fruit, it's simply fructose, the natural sugars in the fruit. We're getting all of that in the juice, fructose, but we're not getting any of the fiber of eating the whole piece of fruit. When we have sugars with fiber, with good quality fat, with good quality protein, it helps flatten that insulin spike. But when we just have the fructose, back up we go. And we're literally drinking teaspoons of sugar. And some of those juices have added sugar, which is completely unnecessary. But those little juice lunch boxes that we send our kids with to school because we think that's a healthy drink for them to have in the middle of the day, some of them have 19 grams of sugar. That's about 5 teaspoons of sugar. And there's no way you would spoon feed your child 5 teaspoons of sugar. And yet they drink it down. So that's another one. The dairy industry has us all convinced that cow's milk is the best source of calcium. Well, it's great marketing. And I know I grew up drinking cow's milk because that's what my mom was taught. That's what she believed. But there are many other better sources of calcium through our vegetables, etc., and other carbs than cow's milk. And we're the only mammal on the planet that drinks another mammal's milk. And there are many, many people who have lactose intolerance, and they generally know it. But there's also people who have an intolerance to casein, which is the protein in cow's milk, and they don't do well with dairy. And yet they don't know it. And that causes all sorts of digestive issues down the road when they continue to drink it, thinking it's really healthy and that's their best source of calcium. So there's, those are just 3 examples off the top of my head. And there's quite a few other ones that, we've been told and people believe because media does such a good job of getting it out there, but it's marketing from the food industry. Another one is, start your day with healthy cereals on the shelves and look at all of the boxes, fiber added and vitamin D added and and iron added. But when you actually read the ingredients of what's in those cereals, they're loaded with sugar. They're loaded with chemicals. And there really isn't much nutrition in them. And there's so many better ways to start our day and feed our kids before they go to school in the morning.
I have a question actually about the keto.
Mm-hmm.
Going into ketosis. What is that a dangerous thing for people to try? Because I know there's a lot of people on that sort of keto train right now. So
yeah, there's a lot of people on the keto train, and there's a lot of people that don't do it well. They take what they like about it and don't necessarily do what they don't like about it. It has its purpose in the short term. And for somebody who is recovering from cancer, it can have huge benefit because our cancer cells in our body actually have 15 times the sugar receptors of our healthy cells. And so starving them of sugar, even sugar from carbs, etc., is very helpful. But in the long term, it is not a good diet for somebody to be on. And that's why many people will start off, they'll do well, they'll lose some weight, and then they hit a wall and they stop losing weight and they don't understand why. And they think they have to do it more and longer. It's because the body doesn't want to be on this diet for the longer term. And what it can actually do is put the body into a stress state, which is where we hit a wall and we stop losing weight, because in this stress state, the body is holding on to weight, not losing weight.
I was just talking with an individual who is on the keto diet and has been on it for 2 years. And she's on it because she has, and I'm going to say this wrong, but it's a increase of cysts in her ovaries. There's something called PST, something like that. And she's been told to be on it for that reason. So is that what you're referring to, like with cancer, like where you have to sort of be on these diets for a short time? She's still planning on staying on it because it keeps her blood sugar level, at a certain baseline and doesn't spike. But you still feel, even for that, it's too long.
I don't want to go against what some medical doctor might have told her, and I don't know her full medical history, but there are other ways that we can be balancing our insulin levels.
Okay. I'm going to tell her
that are not depriving us from entire food groups, really, right? And cysts in the ovaries are fairly common, and I would want to look at other ways of addressing that besides just using
I'm going to have
one diet.
Have her reach out to you for sure.
So we've talked a lot about things that are unhealthy, and we've mentioned that, Karen, you're on, you've been detoxing. I would love to know how it works and what a typical detox program looks like.
Yeah, me too.
Sure. So the program that I offer is it's a 21-day program that most people are needing to do. I actually have a detox quiz, and Karen, you can put that in the show notes if you like, so people can discover their toxic load score. And based on that score, it indicates whether you should do a 7-day, a 14-day, or a 21-day detox.
And I was 21.
Most people are 21 days because they haven't detoxed before, and because our world is highly toxic. Mm-hmm. So we do it over 3 weeks in order to allow this program to work within your daily life. If I tried to ask you to do, 6 days of fasting in a row, you wouldn't be able to, through the week, continue going to work and living your life. So we spread it out over a 3-week period. We start off with 2 days of fasting with shakes. So you're getting, as I said earlier, all the minerals and vitamins that you need. There's protein in the shake, and there's also a detox formula in the shake. So your body is getting what it truly needs, but in a way that digestion is really quick so that it can get into deep cleaning mode or autophagy. And on days 1 and 2, you have 4 shakes, 3.5 to 4 hours apart, which gives your body a almost 72 hours, because you don't have lunch and you don't eat until lunch on the 3rd day, of autophagy and deep cleaning mode. And the longer we're in that phase, the longer we get to that place where our human growth hormone is produced and starts regenerating new, young, vibrant cells. Then we get to have lunch on day 3. And as Karen said, it's the best meal that you've ever had. And I love how when we actually take away food for a little while, we truly appreciate it so much more when we get to eat again. And I love seeing those messages. I can't wait for lunch. And then a few hours later, oh my God, that was the best meal I've ever had. And I do ask people to be very mindful about eating that meal. And from the recipes I offer, to choose a stew or a lentil dish or a soup, because again, it's easier for the body to digest. And we've just given the digestive system a break for 2.5 days. We don't want to shock it back into operation by chowing down our food on the run and choosing something that might be a little bit harder to digest. So for the rest of the week, days 3 to 7, you start off your morning with a shake. You then have a vegan lunch. You have a shake in the afternoon again. And then you have dinner, which you can add animal protein if you eat animal protein. And I provide all the recipes. And there's also a list of foods. So if you're someone who's really handy in the kitchen, you can make whatever you want from the foods that you're allowed to eat. And it's all whole plant-based, delicious foods, a good mix of protein and good fats and carbohydrates to give you everything that you need nutritionally. The recipes are really nutrient dense. So you tend not to go hungry between meals, but sometimes you are hungry, and then I'll coach you through what to do about that, as I've done with Karen, and it's always to look at, you finished eating, and now are you hungry 20 minutes later? And am I truly physically hungry? Or is there something else my body needs? Like Karen said, am I thirsty? Do I need a walk? Should I go have a bath? Is it my brain talking to me, but I'm not actually physically hungry? And so this program works really well because that first week people are adjusting, the body is adjusting to the new caloric intake, starting to get those toxins out. People are noticing it. The body detoxes through the skin, through our urine, through our bowels.
I had a bad rash on the second day. And I was so nervous. I texted you. I said, what is this rash? I took a picture on my stomach. I'm so like, am I doing this wrong? You said, no, you're doing it right.
Yeah, it's called a Herxheimer reaction, and it's just the way the body reacts when we start allowing those toxins to come out. And so we take week 1, and then we repeat it again in week 2, and we repeat it again in week 3. So what I generally find is I get lots and lots of questions in week 1 as people are trying to figure it all out. And then in week 2, there's less questions because they kind of know what they're doing. And by week 3, there's even fewer questions generally. But I do love people asking questions because then they can get their answer. And then I know that they're just that much further down the path to success.
And then when I finish, which will be next week, I told you I'm going out for my 30th wedding anniversary that night. So is that going to be such a shock on my system if I decide to have that drink, have that peppermint ice cream? I mean, I'm kind of thinking about it, and like, the more I go through this, I'm like, oh no, I don't know if I want to do that to my body, but I so kind of want to also.
Again, it's celebration.
Yeah.
And I think you said like there's multiple servings. And so when you have multiple servings, it's usually just a small amount of each, and there's time in between, right? And so you don't have to eat every single serving. You can have tastes of each one.
Right.
And with that time in between, you're also giving your body time to digest. What we don't want to do is what we tend to do at Thanksgiving, for instance, where it's all on the table and it's so good and we just eat it all. And then we go to the couch and we're like, oh my God, I need to unbutton my jeans, unzip my jeans. I'm in pain and I have no energy. And that's because we've just bogged our digestive system down to the point where it's using way more than 30% of your energy in order to process all of this food you've just shoved down. And that's why you don't have any energy for anything else, because it's all gone to digestion. But when you enjoy the meal mindfully and slowly and have time for digestion to happen in between, it's not going to be the shock to your body that Thanksgiving dinner can be. And you may choose not to eat it all. You might just want to taste a little bit of everything. And it all becomes a choice. You have so much more awareness around your body, what your body likes, how your body wants to eat, that you will be able to make the right choices for you on the day. And you know what? If you enjoy it on the day and the next day you're not feeling that great, that's okay too. You enjoyed it on the day, you had fun. You're not going to do that again for, I don't know, at least a year, maybe 30 years, right? So, again, don't beat yourself up.
I have a question for you, Melissa. So I'm a 50 plus year old woman, and I've gone through menopause. And how does, would you recommend different things for people over, who have gone through menopause? Are there certain foods that you would say now definitely avoid? What are your thoughts?
So hormones for women are such a complicated issue, right? And there are many factors that are causing hormonal imbalance. And this can start as young as 35 as we start to go into perimenopause, and then menopause, and then postmenopause. But there's also, again, our toxic load. There's many toxins out there. They're called xenoestrogens that mimic our estrogen in the body. And so they're coming into the body and the body thinks it's estrogen. That can put us into a state of estrogen dominance, which means we have too much estrogen relative to progesterone. Chronic stress will put us into that state, because in chronic stress, the body is producing more cortisol in order to allow us to fight or flight or freeze. And in that moment, it shuts down digestion because it needs to get the energy from somewhere. We don't need to use energy in digestion when we're trying to get to safety. and it shuts down procreation. So it doesn't need to produce progesterone, and it produces more cortisol instead. So we get into this state of estrogen dominance. That can then impact our thyroid and cause low thyroid. That can also is a known cause of breast cancer. That can increase weight gain, etc. There's many symptoms that come with that. But some people are the other way around, and they have low estrogen and perhaps higher progesterone. It's more rare, but it can happen. So I actually run labs for people to see where they're at, because it's hard to determine just by symptoms where somebody's hormones are at. But yes, when we know that, we will use food as well as natural supplements to help bring someone's hormones back into balance, so they don't have to suffer through symptoms that they may be struggling with, like PMS or pain, throughout their cycle, etc. So knowing where your hormones are at can then help you decide, what foods you should be eating or shouldn't be eating. For instance, flax seeds are very high in estrogen, soy very high in estrogen, but there's also foods that are higher in progesterone. So understanding where you're at then helps me guide people as to what foods are healthy in relation to hormones. But to just randomly say that isn't really going to help people if they don't know where they're at. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So, are there foods that even if you don't know where you're at and you haven't done the test, are there foods that you would, you mentioned, soy and flaxseed, any other everyday foods. And I don't eat meat, so I don't eat a ton of soy or tofu, because I'm aware that that's not good. But what do you do if you don't eat meat or chicken? Does that come into play at all?
Animal proteins don't really come into play there. And all of the foods are actually, labeled healthy foods. They're whole food, plant-based foods, right? And so there's not any of them that I would tell people to stop eating unless I knew where their hormones were and I was trying to correct that.
Thank you. That clears up a lot.
You're welcome. And just to add to that too, like when our body is highly toxic and our liver is bogged down, we can again trigger issues with hormone imbalances, because the liver is also charged with getting rid of excess estrogen in the body. And our own body can make excess estrogen, but if the liver isn't functioning well, it can't do that well. And again, we get a buildup of estrogen, which we don't want.
Does that answer your question? Yes. Any other questions?
I do. Melissa, just a logistics question, which is if somebody doesn't live near you and you're working with someone on with these tests, the functional tests and the lab tests that you just talked about, how does that work?
Great question. My business is 100% virtual. So the labs actually get mailed to your home, and you do them in your home. You mail them back to the lab. I get the results, and all my sessions are done on Zoom. So it's super COVID friendly. And I really like people being able to do the labs in their home, because that's their place of comfort. And so doing the labs in the home without the stress factor of going to a clinic is actually going to be giving, truer results of where you're really at without the stress factor added. And they're really easy to do. There's a hair clipping one that will test for your minerals and metal toxicity levels. There's a urine sample one, which tests your gut health and your neurotransmitter function, your vitamin levels, your mitochondrial energy function, and your detox pathway function. The others are all blood tests. And so that's the food sensitivity test. There's a test for testing inflammation levels in the body. And then the last one is your hormones, which is actually a saliva test to test your sex hormones and cortisol levels, which we test 4 times throughout the day, because that tells me what's happening with your cortisol and how that's impacting your sleep. And then a blood portion to that as well gives me all 4 thyroid markers, your vitamin D levels, and your insulin levels, both fasted and 90-day. So that's a really great lab to see where people are at and how stress is impacting their body.
The same group of tests that you do both at the beginning and then the end of the fast period, the detox period?
So the detox is independent. People can just choose to do the detox because they want, they're not feeling great. They want to clean up their diet, just get some toxins out, feel better. But if people are wanting to work with me one-to-one and do labs, then I always have them start with the detox. They do the labs first though. send those off because it takes about 4 weeks for me to get results. 2 weeks later, we start the detox. 2 weeks after that, I'm reviewing their labs with them to see where they're at, what their healing protocols are going to be, which gives them time to order those protocols while they finish the last week of the detox. And then they move straight into that healing protocol from the detox with no chance to retox in between. And when we do it that way, their pathways are open and cleared. So any healing protocol going in can actually get to the cells that need it. And the results are much faster than if we're putting a healing protocol in on top of a toxic load. And I liken it to putting trash on top of the garbage can at the park, and you drop it on the top of that overflowing garbage bin. And where does it go? Plop on the ground outside. So that healing protocol isn't necessarily getting to the cells to the same degree when we're toxic, when we start putting it in.
Dennis, what was your question?
I have a client that has had protein in her urine. Is there something that is creating that in terms of nutrition? Like, is there a way that, or would that be something that's more complex? You'd want to find more information out?
I want to find out more information on that, but my first reaction would be that her body isn't breaking down the nutrients to the degree that it should. And that happens in an unhappy gut. And we can end up in a situation of malabsorption, and the micro minerals, nutrients, vitamins, proteins are not being broken down. It's getting into the bloodstream, and instead the body's passing things straight out. So that could be a reason for it, but there could be other reasons for it as well. So I would want to look deeper into that.
So nutrition is just one piece of that. Then she should be following up with other people too.
Yeah, I would definitely be wanting to look at her gut health and see what is going on inside that gut that is triggering that to happen.
And then how often do you suggest that individuals do the 21 or 14 or 7-day detox, whatever is required, or, that they feel like? How often should I be doing the 21, for example? Once a year, twice a year? What do you suggest?
So our toxins are always coming in, and we need to always be getting them out because we can't avoid them. We can lower our toxic load. And I do encourage people to be looking at, replacing their personal care products for non-toxic products, replacing their cleaners in their house for non-toxic products, and lowering that load. But we're never going to avoid them forever, right? We're all together. So we start with the 21-day detox, and then I recommend quarterly 7-day detoxes on an ongoing basis. And if you keep doing that on an ongoing basis, those toxins that are coming in, you're getting them out. And when you get to the 7-day detox, Karen, when you get to the 7-day detox, you'll think, this is easy.
Yeah, easy. Yeah, absolutely. Well,
Melissa, I just want to say, I'm sorry, Karen. I just want to say that when I got onto the Zoom this morning, and I know Karen very well, I looked at her, I said, I forgot that she was doing detox. And I looked at her, I said, what are you, like, you're glowing. You look amazing. And you've got to tell Melissa. She said, I'm doing the detox. It was awesome. And it's true, Karen, you are.
I've had a lot of my kids, even my son's in town, and he even said, Mom, you're glowing. I'm like, what? My son even said that. So
yeah. And I said that after the Grateful Goddess last week when I saw you. I can totally see. And so when we get those toxins out, it allows our skin to heal, and it shows on the outside what we're doing on the inside.
And that's why I'm thinking, as much as I want to, have the celebration dinner, I'm not going to go as crazy as I normally would. I like the idea of having, I'll have one martini, but then I'll have, little tastes of things. I don't have to eat an entire bowl of peppermint ice cream.
Exactly.
I like it.
Think of it like this, that somebody said this to me once, and I thought it was brilliant, that you take no more than 3 bites of something that's really sweet that, is kind of loaded with sugar and not going to serve your body that well. So enjoy 3 bites of it, but don't make those bites so big that you're shoving them into your mouth and you pretty much eat the whole thing in 3 bites. Eat those 3 bites as if you're eating them on television and the whole world is watching you.
I like that. Okay, that's very good advice. One last and final question from me. So what would be a healthy average breakfast, lunch, dinner? I know that's a lot to ask, but are you guys thinking that too? Like, what are some suggestions for that, would you say?
So I love to recommend people start their day with a smoothie. And there's several reasons for that. First of all, you can pack so much goodness into a smoothie, but because the blender is doing all the work, it's really easy on your digestive system. So it doesn't have to use 30% of your energy. And that allows you to start your day with extra energy for cognitive function if you're trying to get work done, or, physical energy to get through a workout, etc. And you're not draining your energy right off the bat trying to digest a big, heavy breakfast. 7 to 9 cups of fruit and veg in a day is what our body needs to be truly healthy and thrive. And we want to eat the rainbow. So as many colors as you can get into those 7 to 9 cups. And when you break it down, it's really probably 2 to 3 cups of fruit, and then the rest would be veggies. So in that smoothie, you can put in so many different things to get a portion of the fruit, a portion of the colored veggies, and all that nutrient density into your breakfast to start your day. And then lunch, again, you're going to be adding in lots of veggies. It could be a salad, and then you're going to add some protein. You want to have half a cup to a cup of protein at each meal. And so in your smoothie, you're very often adding a protein powder, a good quality one, or you can be adding hemp seeds for your protein in the morning into your shake. So lunch, a bunch of greens and some protein on top, or maybe it's a soup that's full of veggies. Maybe I love lentil dishes. Lentils are such a great protein, and you can add in lots of veggies with that. And again, really easy for the body to digest because they cook down to being almost like mashed potatoes. And then dinner, make sure you're finishing off whatever you haven't had. If those 7 to 9 cups you're going to have at dinner, so probably half your plate is veggies. And then again, another half cup to a cup of protein, depending on your body's size, your energy output, how much protein you need, and then some good quality fats at each meal. So it could be olive oil drizzled over the veggies. It could be half an avocado. It could be, some coconut oil in your shake in the morning. So that's how I like to eat. I'm
no
also
snacks?
somebody.
No snacks?
Snacks, because we're doing 3.5 to 4 hours apart, you probably need an afternoon snack in there somewhere between lunch and dinner. And again, that could be veggies and things in there, or some fruit in there. I love to make pumpkin coconut muffins, and that's usually my afternoon snack. I make them with monk fruit extract rather than processed sugar. It's 300 times sweeter than sugar, so you don't need much, but it also doesn't trigger an insulin spike, so it's a good sugar alternative. And it's packed full of coconut, which is super healthy, and pumpkin. Sometimes I'll throw in a bit of banana. So, nuts are a great snack for people that can eat nuts, have lots of good benefits. And I'm not talking peanuts. I'm talking more, walnuts and almonds and pecans, etc., seeds in there. So I do all my own baking. And I know a lot of you are talking about baking through COVID. Baking at home, you can make some excellent healthy snacks versus store-bought, where you're going to have more processed sugar and more chemicals to add to the shelf life. Mm-hmm. So that's how I like to eat in my day, and teach my clients to eat.
You missed one thing that you taught me, which has been a game changer for me, is warm lemon or hot water with lemon.
In the morning. Yes. So that helps turn on digestion. And so having that before a meal helps to signal to the brain that food is coming, turn on digestion, turns on our salivary enzymes, all of our enzymes throughout our body, our hydrochloric acid in our stomach, so that when we put the food in, it's ready to break it down. And many people do struggle with low stomach acid because of high stress. Remember I said high stress? The body shuts down digestion, because when we're trying to flee and get to safety, we're not caring about digestion. And because so many people are living in a state of chronic stress, digestion is turned off when we put food in. And then that means the body has a hard time breaking down the food. And that can be result in constipation, diarrhea, or, people having potentially protein in their urine, right? It's not getting into the body and it's going right through the body and coming out the other side. So using lemon water to help turn on digestion ahead of eating is really powerful as well.
Melissa, would you suggest doing the lemon water before the morning shake or after?
So I actually do it before my lunch because I have the shake in the morning and that's already blended. And so it's easier on the body to digest already. So I do it before lunch, and sometimes depending what I'm having for dinner, I might do it before dinner. Starting your day with it is, if that's the only time that you can do it based on your busy lifestyle, then having it before your shake and just getting it in, because it also helps balance blood sugar. There's so many benefits to it. So just before a meal rather than after a meal, though.
I like it in the morning because it's kind of the habit of a warm drink.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have that and then a caffeine-free tea and then the shake. But yeah. Whatever.
And we are dehydrated when we wake up. So starting our day with some warm water, because the body absorbs warm water better than cold water, and just getting hydrated after those 7 to 9 hours of sleep and no hydration, the body needs to get hydrated at that time.
So Melissa, if people would like to reach out to you for coaching, how can they do that?
My website is simply yourguidedhealthjourney.com. And they can go to my website, and in the top corner it says contact. They can reach out. There's a couple questions to fill out as to what's going on for them. And then that's the best way to reach me. I also have my own podcast, which is Don't Wait for Your Wake Up Call. People can check that out if they just want to get to know more about me and my work. And they can also email me, melissa@yourguidedhealthjourney.com.
Thank you so much for joining us on Grateful Goddesses today. We've learned so much. This has been fantastic. I'm just looking, your Coach Connect just sent me a message saying, what's for lunch today? Send me a photo. So I'm going to go figure out what my lunch is. Probably a good big salad with some very important colors in there, all the rainbow colors for my lunch. So thank you so much again. We really appreciate you joining us today, and you're going to help a lot of people. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed talking with all of you. So thanks for your time.
Up next, favorite things. Opening up to happiness and joy.
So welcome everyone to Favorite Things with our guest, Melissa Deely. So she is here joining us talking about nutrition and holistic health care for your body, keeping your gut really clean. And so we're going to talk about our favorite things today. I brought along my new favorite. It's a store near my house called Aura. Alyssa, have you seen it yet? I made my own candle. It's been burning and smelling so beautiful this whole session, this whole episode. And I just want to read underneath what's in it. Olive blossom, honeydew, verbena, and vanilla. So I went to this store. It's a new store, and there's like over 100 different scents that you can choose from, different essential oils, and you add them to the base of the candle. You get to pick your vessel, and this is my goddess candle. Smells so good. My husband made one that was more of like a manly scent. He put in it Dad's Den and like fresh, clean shave. It's you walk in, it smells like a men's bathroom as far as I'm concerned, but he enjoys it. So Alyssa, what did you bring today for favorite things?
Okay, so I brought two things today that I've been using together. So it's summer. I don't tan even if I wanted to, and I really don't go in the sun anymore because it's just not good for me. And so I have been using this tinted moisturizer that I really like. It's Laura Mercier, but it's got sunscreen in it. And it's like, you know how a lot of times these tinted moisturizers you put on, you feel like you've done nothing, and, but you don't want to wear something thick or heavy makeup. So tinted moisturizer for me is really the most I'll put on my skin in the summer when it's hot. And then I found this product at Blue Mercury, one of my favorite stores, also in our neighborhood, Karen. And it's called a brightening serum, and the company is by Terry. And a couple of pumps of this into this, and you get this glow and you feel like people said, oh, you look tan, and I'm really not tan at all. And I never tan, but it's the thing that's sort of helping me look like I've got taking a summer glow.
You do have a glow. Now you have to do the inside glow.
I don't have that glow from the detox yet. I will.
Right.
I have to fake it
Put them both together. Tanis, what did you bring today?
Still.
Oh, what is
This
that?
One of my amethyst crystals.
Mm.
And amethyst is a great overall healer. And it's also very calming and relaxing. So that helps your digestion. So also helps. The more you work with crystals and stuff, the more you're raising your vibration and that. So you're also helping to get that glow. So
It's funny because I put this crystal at the base of my spine. I do that for some of the episodes. I don't know what it is, but somehow it grounds me. So I'll put it right back. You know what it's called, I bet.
right. Aragonite.
Okay.
Aragonite. It's like
Aragonite. Yeah.
Aragonite. Yeah. Sure, I'm not pronouncing that one right, but that's how it's phonetically done.
Oh, thank you for sharing. Tanis has a really beautiful collection of gems. I love to see all of them. I see, Melissa, you're wearing a stone as well. But before we get to you, we're going to talk to Michelle. What's your favorite thing, Michelle, today?
Well, I'm rethinking it a little bit, but it's RX bars. I have at least half for breakfast every day. The ingredients, which after today's episode, I'm not sure I'm going to do this anymore, but it's 3 egg whites, 5 pecans, 4 cashews, 2 dates, and no BS, it says. And that's it. So I love them. It just gives me that nice chew. I just like the way I start my day with that and my cup of green tea.
Melissa, is that a good choice?
You know what? I use RX bars when I go backcountry camping because, they are of the choices out there. It's a great choice for getting some energy. And I love that it tells you exactly what's in it and that no BS. So yes.
Okay, good choice, Michelle. And Melissa, what did you bring today?
Well, it ties in beautifully. I wrote something really big compared to all of you, but I brought my backcountry camping backpack because it's backcountry camping season. My daughter and I went out last Friday for our first hike and camp of the season. And it's something that we've started doing together since COVID when we couldn't go anywhere else. We started exploring our own backyard and hiking up to beautiful lakes and camping and, taking everything with us and being prepared. And it's such a wonderful way to leave behind the world, leave behind screens, leave behind stress, because nature is so rejuvenating, and just get out there and enjoy it. So
thank you for sharing that. And I'm just reading behind you. I love this quote. Health isn't everything, but without it, everything else is nothing. That is such a beautiful way to go about our day and our life. And thank you so much for sharing, everybody, your favorite things. I love to tie it all together. So we're going to light a candle by holding the amethyst. We're going to then put on our sunscreen and our tinted moisturizer. We're going to have our little bar, and then we're going to go camping. Don't you love how that all goes together? Enjoy your
day. It's also healing.
What's that, Tanis?
You could even do that while you're camping.
You can even do that while you're camping. Absolutely. Thank you again, Melissa, for joining us. We've learned so much today.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
Unleashed your inner goddess yet? Thanks for joining us today on Grateful Goddesses. We invite you to visit our website, www.gratefulgoddesses.com, to access today's show notes as well as other helpful resources. Don't forget to leave a review. Until next time, stay strong and empowered to be a grateful goddess.